album review. I haven't done one of these in months, and even at that, there aren't very many. And whenever a new album comes out, I'm like, oh, I should review this, I got so much to say, and then time passes and I just kick myself for not doing it. So I usually try to give myself about a week after the album comes out to give me sufficient time to listen and form an opinion, because it's not like movies where you can watch it once, or, I mean, some require multiple reviewings, but at least after once I can still make a pretty good review on it. This, I feel like I need a week to make it somewhat accurate on my feelings, even though they might change, and they probably will. And the album I'm going to review for you today came out last Tuesday. I was very, very excited about it, because it's one of my personal favorite artists, and I'm just happy he's still kicking, still going strong, and this album just proves that, and that is Bruce Springsteen's new album, Wrecking Ball. Hopefully I got some Springsteen fans in my audience, because honestly, there's Springsteen fans everywhere, so I'm just hoping that, you know, some of you guys out there love him, like I do. I'll be honest, I've been into classic rock and all the subgenres for a very long time, but Bruce Springsteen took me a little longer to get into. For some reason, I knew everybody loved him, and it just took one time, you know, all of a sudden, and then I just bought every single album he had, and just started listening to them all, and it's just been amazing since then. And so it was only a couple months ago, you know, I was reading in Rolling Stone, right about when El Camino came out, which is ironically the last album I reviewed, that, you know, he was planning a new tour, and that's exciting enough as it is, and a new album to go along with that, and he hasn't had one since 2009, so this is a great way for him really to enter the decade, and we'll get to the album. He's never slowed down. He's just one of those artists that never became irrelevant, has always been awesome. I mean, he was at the Grammys only a month ago, and he's just never been stopped being the boss. There is a reason he has that nickname, people. I was excited. Also somewhat sad, you know, Clarence Clemens, he died in June, and it's just really such a big hole to fill, this gap that can't be ignored, and you can't really fill it either. I mean, the replacements on here, yeah, it's fine and all, but it's weird. It is really weird for his album without. In the last decade, he had The Rising, which is hugely selling, and one of the first albums he had recorded with the E Street Band in a very long time. And this one, the reason I brought that up is because he's touring with the E Street Band for the album, which is very cool, but only a couple made it onto the album. Clemens is on there for some time, so that is somewhat of a respite or homage of sorts, and it's just great to have him on there. I'm pretty sure like Weinberg and Van Sant are on there, but yeah. And there are also some really cool guest musicians, but let's get to actually talk about the album. Alright, I figured I'd pop a squat, put this thing up next to me so it just kind of stands there, and for some reason I got the special edition one, or whatever they want to call it, the collectors, and because it comes with 2 bonus tracks, and let's be honest, any new Bruce Springsteen content, a couple extra bucks, it's worth it, and I definitely would recommend that. The only thing is, it's like a full, usually, like collectors or Ultimate or whatever, will be a different color, or just, you know, have special something on it. This one's like a full inch or so, probably more bigger than like the average CD size. I know it's not even like, it's not a jewel case, but yeah, it's pretty much bigger, and I think that's cool. The only thing is it doesn't really match up, like, you know, I have all my CDs stacked and stuff. It doesn't really fit in there, so I just kind of keep it out like this. So. Also, some cool news, just learned that the album Wrecking Ball made it to the top spot this week, no surprise there, but what's awesome is it finally knocked Adele out from the #1 spot. It sold 200-something thousand copies, pretty awesome, but come on, 21... Adele, you're cool, but make way for the boss. So let's start right off. The first single released is the opening track on here, and that is We Take Care of Our Own. Music video came out about a month ago along with a live performance at the Grammys, and that was pretty awesome. Perfect choice for the debut single for the album, because it definitely sums up both the themes and the sound of the album. While the sound of the album is very big, it also has a very gruff nature to it that is very similar to one of my personal favorite Bruce Springsteen albums, and that is Nebraska. Nebraska was much more political, which I really like. It was much different, much more acoustic and scathing than a lot of his other work, and while he always does sing about social issues, very interesting because it was so much grittier than his other albums. We Take Care of Our Own I read an article where We Take Care of Our Own was called the Born in the USA for a New Generation, and what they mean by that is that Born in the USA was very much a vehement protest song, anti-war Vietnam song, and it was taken in a much more patriotic, nationalistic, upbeat, heartland rock song, which people, including Ronald Reagan, which Bruce Springsteen was very unhappy with, used it as kind of like a pro-America thing, and that's not what Bruce intended at all. And if you're not retarded and can actually listen to the non-chorus lyrics, it's really easy to tell. It's full of odium and a whole lot of other attacks, so the same thing goes for We Take Care of Our Own. It's very much tongue-in-cheek in the fact that it's not really like We Take Care of Our Own. It's much more uplifting, and it capitalizes, bad choice of words, on the resilience of people and human nature to help out one and each other, and when we don't, and when we do. But it's also just a fantastic, very moving song, and Bruce Springsteen just got this power. You know, it starts right up, and really, one thing I have to say, which is recurrent through all the songs, is that the orchestration is absolutely beautiful, but we'll get to that. Easy Money, another very scathing song, very raw, very real, just the voice is amazing, comes out growling. Bruce Springsteen even said, this is my angriest album yet, and it's very straightforward. He's never written this straightforward, and I think that's fine. It perfectly accents the album, especially with subject matter such as this. You don't really need to place a mask on it because we know what you're talking about, especially when it's the whole album. It definitely is not a detriment to the album at all. The songwriting is still poetic and just fantastically done, so the fact that it is somewhat straightforward doesn't really impede on the awesomeness. The main point of this album is definitely greed and the American capitalism system, and very much influenced, obviously, by 2008, and the economic strife that has been going on since then, and the anger that nothing has really been resolved, and the anger at the anger that we had in 2008, and for some time afterwards, and we lost that. There's a line, I think I'm skipping ahead here, but in Wrecking Ball, it's hold on to your anger, and that's because, you know, we get really, really mad about these things, but then, you know, we have to deal with all the crap that goes along with it, that we don't have time to stay angry and fight it. We just become apathetic, and there's a lot of anger derived from that on this album. Jack of all trades. Shackled and Drawn, more simple song, but what makes it so awesome is you hear the orchestration. It could just be a simple acoustic strummer, but it has just this beautiful backing, including beautiful backup singers, and I think it doesn't seem like Fox enhancement, like it's just trying to make it this really big sound. It is produced just so well. Then we have Jack of All Trades, which is a little slower than the other songs so far, and, you know, it calms down for a very poignant but still biting song that is a first-person perspective on having to deal with economic issues, loss for monetary stability, and, you know, things like that, which is really one of the symbols of the times. It's been recurrent throughout all time, where we've had people living in substandard living conditions who, and there's been fall from graces. One thing I love about Bruce is he actually cares about what he's talking about. There's a lot of musicians turned activists who are just doing it to seem like good people, and I know that's cynical to think that they're all just fake, but Bruce Springsteen, he's always used his star power as kind of a guide to pull people through, like, in a lot of ways, ignorance, because there are people who just love Bruce Springsteen because they like his sound, but are somewhat influenced by his political statements. Draws attention to it in popular music, as where pop music now really doesn't, so it's great to have him still around, like someone who can still speak for actual issues. Like, I get it, you know, we want to have fun, but we're just this really awful hedonistic society now, and it's so sad. Which brings me to the next song, which is probably up there for my favorite track on the album right now, and I definitely, it's so awesome. It's Death to My Hometown, and it's such a stinging title even at that, and the whole song, it starts out, it's a much more Celtic beat and rhythm, much like the diversity from the album, and the opening sounds very, very similar to Centerfold. I just butchered that. Not in like a copying way, but in a very, wow, that, but one thing I love about that is, even with that, and there's amazing backing vocals, but also that Bruce brings, like, he has his own distinctive sound, that really no one else has that sound quality. So even when he wants to do anything else, like this, and I think this song, this entire album proves that he can just do whatever the hell he wants music-wise, and he can get away with it. And I mean that in the sense that he can pull off so many different sounds, and it still has that recurrent Bruce sound to it, which is fantastic. The Death to My Hometown, if you're familiar with Born in the USA, which I'm sure if you're a Bruce Springsteen fan you are, being one of his more popular albums, the closing track is a song called My Hometown. Whether or not this represents any, I mean, he talks a lot about hometowns, and he has very recurrent themes through all of his albums, even similar phrasing, so this could just be a coincidence, but I like to think that they're connected. My Hometown, another very poignant and tender song, and then Death to My Hometown is his extremely angry anthem to the destruction of his hometown, and then it ends with Our Hometown, kind of showing the unity that we all deal with these terrifying problems. It has one of the most ripping themes and vocals to it, and it is so powerful, so extremely scathing in the lyrics, some of the most perfect written to describe how I think a lot of people feel, talking about, you know, these greedy thieves and how they're, you know, walking the streets without ever being prosecuted, you know, their crimes are unpaid, and things like that. And I could go through all day picking apart the lyrics and how just fantastic to the cause they are. This Depression, there are a lot of recurring sounds, which is fine because I haven't found one that's like ostensibly unlistenable or that I want to skip over, which is great. Bruce rarely does that, where there's filler tracks that I don't want to listen to. They're all I could just go through and listen. The pacing, it's not a fast album, but it's not really meant to be. So this Depression, fantastic. Then we get to the title track, Wrecking Ball, which I'm not going to say I was disappointed at first, but when I first listened to it, I think I was expecting more, something along the lines of Death to My Hometown and We Take Care of Our Own, which were very fantastic tracks. And for being a title track, I think I'm much more happy they decided to choose We Take Care of Our Own as the single, because it definitely sums up the album more so than this. But I have grown very fond of Wrecking Ball because it is very interesting song in its composition. It's composed very well. I definitely like it much more now. And it was one of the songs that's been around for a while, and I think back from 2009, and it's one of the two songs on here that has Clarence Clemens in it, so that's really nice. Then we've got You've Got It. Oh yeah. Wow, that was pretty bad. I put this one in the same category as Shackled and Drawn, that it could just be like a simple, good, decent song, but it's made really, really good by the backing and everything else. That's why there's not very many tracks on here that are really passaways. Next to Rocky Ground, which is another very, very intriguing song. It starts out, it just got this very, very catchy opening and rhythm. It's extremely interesting, and the one thing is that these are all completely timeless sounds. Like, Bruce Springsteen never struggled to make a new sound. He's just done what he's done, and it's always sounded amazing, and it's never sounded outdated. That's why he's awesome. One of the reasons. And Hopes and Dreams and We Are Alive. We Are Alive kind of ends more in the way that it came in, like We Take Care of Our Own, where it is representative of the resilience that we're gonna get through this. Then to the bonus tracks, which I think, yes, are worth, it's getting the bonus tracks. They're very good. Swallowed Up and American Land. They're both very brooding, pretty different. As I said, they're very diverse songs on here. And overall, this album is just fantastic. Hopefully it won't be that hard for people to see the strong socio-political statements made in here. Not very difficult. One of his most overt albums, so if you can't get this, people, you're retarded. I can't wait to see some of these songs done live. I'm going to see him in April. Can't wait. Bruce Springsteen, just always amazing. He always comes out with great new content that sounds fresh, and oh, it's so awesome. I miss Clarence Clemens, but he did this album. It is so good. It is so powerful. It is moving. If you have the slightest semblance of a political ideology, if you consider yourself somewhat of an activist, or you at least have any interest in what's going on in the world, get this album because it speaks to you. It speaks to me. I love it. Or even if you just like Bruce Springsteen, it's a Brucey good album. Best I've heard this year so far, but I'm partial to Springsteen. It's probably going to stay up there the whole year, I'll be honest with you guys, but totally awesome. Check it out. Definitely deserves a listen. Definitely deserves a lot of listens. I'm still completely enthralled in it. So I will see you guys. Hopefully I'll be able to do more music reviews, because I love doing them. I know they're long, but they're tasty. I was trying to move away from, like that sounding like that's what she said, because I said long, and then it just dove right into it with tasty. So, whoops.